Excellent. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Gemma Alka. I'm the General Manager at Club Kidpreneur, and I'm delighted to welcome you to this afternoon's Club Kidpreneur Teacher Webinar Series. We are grateful you're able to join us today. I completely appreciate that it's a hectic time at term and we're only halfway through. Today we are joined by Tania Gilchrist, Principal at Coopernook Public School in country New South Wales. Tania joins us for an insightful discussion about how she and her school are integrating STEM and entrepreneurship project-based learning programs for deep student engagement. Tania is an esteemed principal, former business owner and leading STEM edpreneur. Tania was one of 70 primary school teachers selected nationally from hundreds of applicants to attend the STEMx Academy during the January holidays. Tania joined elite teachers from STEM and science from across Australia for a week-long intensive conference learning about STEM and unpacking how STEM project-based learning can be adopted in the classroom. Tania is also part of the Club Kidpreneur community, having run the Kidpreneur Challenge program with 20 of her Year 5 and 6 students last year. 6 of those students went on to win the inaugural Kidpreneur Challenge, Club Kidpreneur's national entrepreneurship competition for primary schools. The students won $5,000 computer packages for the school and a money can't buy business internship experience at Moose Toys headquarters in Melbourne. Tania joins the Club Kidpreneur Teacher Webinar Series today to share insights from her experiences at the STEMx Academy and Club Kidpreneur, and how she is integrating the STEM project-based learning and entrepreneurship programs in her classrooms. Please join me in welcoming Tania. Thank you, Tania.
Thanks, Gemma. Thanks for having me. And, well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining our webinar today, as Gemma said. I know how valuable your time is as well, and I hope you get something today that you can take away that will make it worthwhile. Webinars, I have to say, are not my favourite way of connecting. I am much more in the room person, but due to our geographical spread, I'm more than happy to give this a go. For those of you who are sitting there multitasking right now, marking the maths, cutting out the laminated cards, etc. whilst listening, there is no judgment here. Well done, I applaud you. The bonus of webinars is that you can listen and cram in some of those daily extras we as educators seem to think is part of life, although my non-teaching friends tell me it's not really. But I'm sure you get a similar story. This is just a couple of photos from my beautiful school here on the mid-north coast of New South Wales. I've had the privilege of being the principal here at Coopernook now for just over 2 years. And from the opening slide you would know that I am not the young and skinny one, I'm the other one. Science, technology, engineering and maths, STEM, the final frontier. Well, maybe it's not the final frontier, but it certainly is the buzz at the moment, isn't it? Now, I seriously don't want to preach to the choir, but let's start at the basics, as I'm not sure exactly where everyone who's listening is up to in their STEM journey. So STEM is the integrated approach to teaching science, technology, engineering and math. And I have to say it's more of a cultural, pedagogical shift than any new content. In other words, it's not extras to teach, but rather an integrated approach to teaching what you and I already teach every day, and perhaps in a more effective manner. Now, I want to make it clear it does not replace explicit instructional teaching. That will always have a place in the classroom. Explicit teaching is still needed and is always integrated into a STEM classroom. I'm sorry, I've just finished catching my breath after catching a red-bellied black snake just before this webinar started, so I've got a little bit of asthma and I may need to clear my throat now and then. My advice about STEM is don't get hung up on the letters. You all know the arts teachers got in on it and wanted to make it STEAM. They Now, of course, I am jesting with the arts teachers out there. It is true, sometimes art can play a major role in some of the project-based learning or STEM programs that we're running. But then again, I'm currently teaching a geography unit on natural disasters, and it's combined with an inquiry and STEM approach. I'm not going to add a G and rename my program Pedagogy STEGM. I think that the STEAM approach or acronym really came, in some cases, it's been born through the dedicated learning spaces, the maker spaces being set up in some schools, and that these spaces are also ideal for art, artwork, or being made more of a multi-purpose room. So I think a lot of spaces got started to be called a STEAM space rather than a STEM. But I guess the message is you can combine any KLA and content with your STEM teaching, so just don't get caught up in the letters of it. So STEM is here for the long run. Why? And I was put on the spot and asked this exact question the other day whilst on a live radio interview about STEM. And why should all teachers get on the bandwagon, the presenter asked me. There have been so many bandwagons and newfangled ideas, and they come and go. Now for me, I guess I'm lucky in that I've always taught STEM probably without even really realising it. I've always been a proud constructivist. That is the pedagogical approach I've always naturally taken in the classroom. Before it was a buzz for STEM. I've always taken an inquiry-based approach and combined the subjects of science, tech and math with incorporating engineering or design and make into my classroom program. Why did I do it? Because I always found it such an engaging way to connect students with learning. There's nothing more engaging for students than to be investigating the world around them, questioning not just how, but why things are so. Then encouraging the what if approach. What if I did this, or what if that was different? STEM isn't going away, and why is that? And I had a lively discussion on this one recently at an adults-only STEM night I ran here at school, and I can tell you advertising an adults-only night on your notice board out the front and through your newsletters and websites gets quite a lot of attention. So if you go back, I'll take you on a little journey, go back 100 years, and there was a blacksmith in every town and village, and we know that's changed. Go back 50 years and farming was huge and industrialism in Australia was well and truly in its swing. Go back 30 years and industrialism was still raging but starting to feel the pinch slowly. And over the last 30 years our manufacturing, as we all know sadly, has moved overseas. Go back 10 years and everyone was talking, you know, working in the mines, resource-rich Australia. And while that is true, we know that that still represented and still only represents a small percentage of the workforce, and that these resources are now being sent overseas for manufacturing. And of course, there will come a day when those resources run out. Now we're starting to grasp the current needs. Currently in Australia, there are over 20,000 unfilled vacancies for engineers alone. 20,000. Essentially, Australia is transforming from a manufacturing and resource-driven economy to one based on innovation, which is fueled by the science, the technology, the engineering and the math, the STEM. And I have to admit, I did not even fully grasp the entirety of that shift until spending a week at the STEMX Academy that Gemma mentioned in my intro in Canberra. It was one of those biggest, you know, aha moments at the STEMX. And it was at the NASA Deep Space Communications Centre when they said to us that we are teaching the students, they pointed at us and they said, you are teaching the students who will be the first human beings to walk on Mars. Somewhere in the world, in a primary classroom right now, are the children who will become the first human beings to walk on Mars. They will be the people to man the first mission. We have the technology, they have the plans, everything's being built. Timing says that child is sitting in one of our classrooms right now. And it was a big moment for me to really sit and think, and I know many other educators around me thought the same thing. It is a natural progression through different careers and the path our country's taking. But our roles as educators is to look forward and prepare our students for the future workforce, not the current one. So obviously, they will not all become astronauts or even engineers, but the future job market will be filled with innovative new careers, many of which we can't even imagine what they will be yet. So today I'm hoping to cover my experiences with STEM and entrepreneurial programs in the classroom and how they go hand in hand to be taught together. I'm hoping to make it as practical as possible, so please ask any questions you may have. I'm more than happy to take the time to answer your questions. Now, what is the STEMX Academy? Well, as the slide suggests, it is a residential professional development held in Canberra in January. That's right, it's in the school holidays. How do you get selected to attend? You need to apply to ASTA, the Australian Science Teachers Association. They then sort through the hundreds of applications, as Gemma mentioned, that they receive, and they choose the lucky participants. There was a great mix of teachers chosen, from dedicated science teachers to principals, classroom teachers and early career teachers as well. I was not only chosen, but lucky enough to be given a full scholarship from Samsung to attend, so that was quite a bonus, as you could imagine. I encourage everyone to check that out, and I'll give you some more details later. So what was STEMX all about? Wow. I spent the week with 30-odd other primary teachers. I have to correct Gemma slightly, and the other 30-odd were actually secondary teachers. So there were 70 teachers in total, 30-odd from the primary sector and 30-odd from the secondary sector. And they were from across the country, all around Australia, and we were working alongside some of the world's leading scientists and some of our most amazing scientific institutions. We were provided with a gateway, I guess you could call it, to Australia's high-end research projects, facilities and scientists. We were VIP treated. We were in the door, through the back door, to see what was behind everything. We spent time with the CSIRO, with Geoscience Australia, at the NASA Deep Space Communications Centre, Ian Potter Learning Institute, Mount Stromlo Observatory, Questacon, many others. The week was overwhelming, to say the least, and without a doubt, the most amazing professional development I have ever attended. Why is that? Well, because it provided the most positive and practical changes to my teaching and being a principal, the running of my school. It provided more insight into how children learn and forced me, and I have to say it, I thought I was pretty damn hot at this stuff, but it really forced me to question my practice and how I could be teaching better, reaching higher for myself, my school and my students. It also provided me with the contacts and resources and a whole network of people to bring back and utilise, and that network includes my fellow participants, scientists that we worked with, connections into all of these science environments. We now have real people on the line. We can pick up a phone, send an email, access programs. It was amazing. So what were the big takeaways that I can share? I guess one of the biggest is that, isn't she cute? Forget a princess, I want to be a mechanical engineer. I've got one of those here, I think. So those big takeaways. That the skills need to be fostered. The skills required for STEM need to be fostered from a really young age. It's so important that we begin this from when they hit school in kinder, prep, depending what state you're in, and fostering that natural curiosity and creativity that we are so good at squashing out of them over their years at school. I mean, we all know that a kindergarten child has a lot better imagination than a lot of our year 5 or 6s. And that's because we have unintentionally, but slowly, squashed it out of them. The skills are essential to STEM success. And those skills are continuum progression based. You can look into ACARA, into the national science, math, tech curriculums. It's about applying knowledge by using the skills that are learnt. Go to the ACARA website and check out STEM. STEM skills will be needed in all jobs, not just engineers and astronauts. I mean, that's what we worked out, is it doesn't matter. And when you look at those knowledge and skills, things like critical thinking, things like analytical thinking, being innovative, creative, collaborative and resilient, those are all buzzwords again, but they're all essential, as we know, to the success of students. They're essential skills to our success in our career now. We need to be critical thinkers. We need to be analytical. You know, this creativity, collaborativeness, resilience, all of those things obviously are going to benefit if you're becoming an engineer. They're also going to benefit if you're becoming a teacher, a worker on the roads, or anywhere. Well, even the government picked up on this, and they're projecting our needs. It's not very often, I can tell you, that I give the government a positive plug, but here it is. The National Innovation and Science Agenda. The mission statement of the agenda is, the government says, extraordinary technological change is transforming how we live, work, communicate and pursue good ideas. We need to embrace new ideas in innovation and science and harness new sources of growth to deliver the next age of economic prosperity in Australia. The National Innovation and Science Agenda is an important step in the right direction. Innovation is important to every sector of the economy, from ICT to healthcare, education to agriculture, and defence to transport. Innovation keeps us competitive, it keeps us at the cutting edge, it creates jobs, and it will keep our standard of living high. The National Innovation and Science Agenda will drive smart ideas that create business growth, local jobs, and global success. And that agenda had initiatives worth $1.1 billion over these 4 years that they're putting up. You can see from their homepage there, it's a screenshot, that startups and entrepreneurs, very big chunk of that. Our young Australians, most important. Businesses, researchers, universities and investors, you notice, have got that role to play as well. But have a look at what the biggest slide is. Startups and entrepreneurs. And that word innovation that was mentioned in the agenda. Innovation, to me, this is one of the big link words. Innovation is a major driving force behind STEM teaching and learning. And of course, it's a major component of entrepreneurial success as well. So, entrepreneurial challenges in the classroom. There's a few snapshots from last year from our Kidpreneurs. And, well, what does it look like when you're doing it in the classroom? Well, I have to seriously tell you, it just looks like STEM in action. Entrepreneurial challenges give students a platform for inquiry-based learning. Initially, students of STEM need to identify a problem. They then create possible solutions to that problem, which can be tested. The skills are inquiry-based approaches to teaching and learning that are used. In an entrepreneurial challenge, such as the one my school undertook last year, students are required to identify a problem, a need. They then brainstorm possible solutions, whether that be a product or a service. Then they test this solution in a real-world business environment. What exactly are they learning? When you're doing an entrepreneurial challenge at school, what exactly are you teaching and are they learning? Well, this is my own personal experience from last year. During the Kidpreneur Challenge, I was able to confidently mark off a lot of curriculum content, and that's so important when we're going to dedicate time to a challenge or a program of any sort. We all know how tight we are already in trying to fit everything in. The best thing about this was you could tick off a whole heap of stuff. The best thing about the challenge is probably the wide scope of areas that you can choose to delve into with your regular classroom routine, as well as those exciting, sometimes messy and noisy making sessions. I won't deny it, there are some of those needed. Critical and analytical thinking, that's a big one. That absolutely the skills were built during the challenge. First, finding the problem. One of my teams, which are called companies in the challenge, were all keen on fishing, but they couldn't afford to financially continuously replace their soft rubber lures that would get destroyed during their fishing sessions, or sessions as they would call them when they talk to me. So they chose to find a solution for that and make a more durable lure that was cheap and they could make themselves. So they identified, solving, they eventually made, tested, marketed, and as Gemma said, they were actually one of those winning teams that went on to win the challenge. Collaborative skills. It speaks for itself. There are no lone wolves in the Kidpreneur Challenge. Everyone forms companies with other like-minded students, so they work together. And this is important because, as my students learnt, there are many roles and jobs in getting a product or service to market and making it successful. Also, what I do have to mention is that I really thought that it would cause an amazing amount of competition in my classroom. I thought companies would be, pitting against each other and undermining each other, and it actually did the exact opposite. It was one of the pleasant things to have for a surprise. They actually were helping each other out. If one team needed beer caps for their lures that they were making, everybody in the classroom was bringing them in. Somebody couldn't think of a company name, somebody from another company would come over and go, have you thought about this? They were all in it as a giant, the words escape me. It was amazing and a very, very positive experience as far as collaborative learning went. Organisational skills. Yep, they had deadlines, they had checkpoints. The program was well stepped out to assist the students in keeping organised and on track. And the best news is I'm probably 9 months down the track now from finding out about this program and delving into it. And I've really seen a positive flow-on effect from this since the challenge in their organisational skills. Science skills, thinking scientifically, fair testing of products, chemistry, depending on what they were making, it was all sorts of science. Math was a really big winner. I managed to knock over in my regular math classes money, time, fractions, decimals, percentages and conversions of, tables, charts, and it was the best uptake of content I've had in a long time in the math classroom. It was all relevant to their needs. They were excited and had a need to learn it. And finally, we pegged some of those decimal percentage fraction conversions that I had children that we tried a couple of times and hadn't gotten. They nailed it. When it come down to their profit and losses, they could just work it out every time. English, another big winner. Public speaking, dealing with customers, making video pitches, the visual literacy content I could tick off was amazing, advertising, signage. It allowed me to dive in depth with visual literacy. Words like working out what's salient in the advertisement, hidden content, inferential. It's often hard for children to learn that inferential stuff. During this, it was amazing that I could utilise so much of my regular class time to reinforce and integrate what we were learning in the challenge. Technology, as I said, there was filmmaking, product research, ordering components, digital ads, signage, engineering. Of course, it was designing and making of products, displays, websites, all sorts of things. And is this all looking and sounding familiar? Because it's almost identical to those STEM skills and abilities that you'll see on every STEM website or document that you open. So the biggest win of the experience, the biggest win, the boost in students' self-confidence. Of course, we also won that trip to Melbourne and we got to go to Moose headquarters for our internship, and we had 2 teams, so we won over $10,000 in HP Sprout Pro computers. And that was amazing. Thank you very much to everyone involved. But the biggest win was the shift in the mindset of these kids. It was amazing. I have it's a country school where I am here. I only have 53 students. These were shy country kids with quite low in self-confidence, many of them, and not believing that the world had a lot to offer them. And the transformation to absolutely finding their confidence and place in the world, they know now and they believe that they can make their own lives take the direction they want. And they believe they can do anything. And that photo is their representation of how they feel about that. So quickly we'll get to the blocks and hurdles. I'm mindful of time, but we'll get to these blocks and hurdles. These are the things that stop us from taking on STEM, inquiry-based learning, things like these entrepreneurial challenges that are out there for us to access. And often the excuses are money, space, and expertise. Now, that is really an excuse, and I've used them myself in the past. For STEM programs, paper and paper clips can make a great session. It's not really costly. And for the Kidpreneur Challenge, we are not a school or a community here of financial fluency. There is not a lot of money here. The $25 per child to enter the challenge last year was paid by the school, and the students had to pay it back. It was a loan to start their business, and it was a great financial learning curve, and it also, there was 100% payback of that money. We had no company that did not manage to pay back their money to the school. And what about the stuff they need to make stuff? Well, really a lot of it was already at the school in the art and craft supplies. And then my kids concentrated on recycling and upcycling products that they could have donated or access easily. So that really wasn't a lot of money involved in that. And I find with most of my STEM projects, it can be done on a very small, tight or zero budget. A makerspace. Yeah, look, didn't have one last year, forming sort of one this year, just because I'm lucky enough to have the space to do so. But did not have a makerspace last year. The whole thing can be run in an everyday classroom. STEM challenges like Kidpreneur, easily done within the confines of your regular classroom. Expertise seems to be another big blocker or hurdle that people put in front of themselves. I don't have the expertise to do it. Seriously, you don't need to have the expertise. There is no expertise required on the teacher front apart from being an educator. If you take on a program like the Kidpreneur program, it is well stepped out. You can, if you really want to make sure you succeed and you want to delve into STEM, inquiry-based teaching and learning, taking on a program like this is starting to sound a bit like a bad radio ad now. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean this to come off as an ad for Kidpreneur at all. But from my experience, sincerely, from one educator to another, the challenge is laid out for you with all the steps. You choose the depth of each step you want to go into. Support and advice was available all the way. You don't need a business background or specific STEM expertise to make this type of entrepreneurial challenge successful in your school. All you need is the kids. They'll do it. They will surprise you. And also remember, there's a whole network of people available through the Kidpreneur program that you have access to. And there's probably a lot of help in your community or expertise in your community that you can pull on as well, if not in your school community, in your wider community. It's a no-brainer. If you want to knock off some content from your teaching, from those curriculums, and you want to introduce or are looking for a new STEM project, think about one of these entrepreneurial challenges. From the mouths of children. These are some quotes from feedback 3 months after the completion of our Kidpreneur. We wait 3 months for the feedback because we believed it would be interesting to see what the feeling was 3 months down the track from finishing. As you can see there, best, and this is, I have not corrected what they said in grammar, best school thing ever by Bridie, she's 11. Absolute best experience of my life, Ty. So much fun from Chaos. Fun, interesting, I learned heaps math, not of math or maths, but heaps math from Maddie. Loved making the video pitch to show off what we had done, Patrick. Mum and Dad are so proud of me, and so am I, from Natalie. And love, love, love Kidpreneur from Sasha. Typical girl type thing to write, isn't it? I had 21 students last year take the challenge. All of the feedback was positive from every student. but it wasn't just the students, it was the parents that were just so impressed by the changes in their children. They were so impressed by them, they wanted to be at school, how involved they were, the learning they did. Also, our community. We've had a lot of feedback from our community. When the parents and the kids are 100% as excited as each other, you know you're on a winner. And I actually just had a parent in my office today, a new parent who walked in wanting to enrol her kinder for next year, specifically because of watching the publicity and our journey through Kidpreneur. She's so excited about coming. She wants to enrol her kinder for next year to be here because of the journey we're going on with our STEM and these types of challenges. At the end, guys, so I haven't taken a breath, but hopefully you've had a chance to have a cuppa. Takeaways today. I really want you all to consider the STEMX Academy, applying through ASTA, the Australian Science Teachers Association. And if you're not a member of your local state science association primary teachers, I suggest you do so. They have an amazing amount to offer us. The other one is entrepreneurial challenges. Just from my experience, a great way to introduce or continue your STEM journey in your school or your classroom. Remember to integrate STEM throughout your lessons. Look for what you can extend the learning into, so much of it can be taught during your regular lesson time and don't have to be an add-on or looking for an extra block of time. Teaching STEM and the Kidpreneur Challenge has been an amazing and enjoyable experience for myself, my students and my community. And that's it. If we have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'll hand it back to Gemma.
Oh, thank you, Tania. For those that do have any questions, if you wanted to type them into the chat box, which is in your control panel, we can open up the webinar for a bit of discussion now. There hasn't been a particular question that's come through just yet. I'll give it a couple more seconds if there is anybody that does want to engage. However, Tania will also be at EduTech next month, participating on the Club Kidpreneur booth with some of those kidpreneurs that she's mentioned today. So by all means, for anybody who's listening in today who is attending EduTech, please come say hi. I am sure Tania would love to have a chat. Doesn't look like there is any questions for us today, but of course, if you do have any after the session, please feel free to email them through and I will pass them on to Tania. Tania, thank you so much for sharing your experiences and insights with us today. It really is an awesome concept to think that amongst today's primary school students, somewhere in the world, are the first humans who will walk on Mars. We really are in an innovation evolution. And it's really important that we understand that STEM and entrepreneurship knowledge and skills will provide the foundations for this era to come. For me, though, the most rewarding and the most powerful outcome that I continue to hear about is that shift in mindset from students and their self-belief and self-confidence. And most importantly, the belief that they are in control of their future and that they can direct what that looks like.
Yes.
For those, I think if anyone does come along to EduTech, please do come and meet the kids because they are remarkable students and people. We're very fortunate to have you in our community, Tania, and thank you very, very much for all that you have contributed and will continue to do with your students. I know that some of them have been working on their prototypes for over 6 months now, God bless them.
Yes.
And for those interested, Tania did mention the Kidpreneur Challenge. It starts next term and the competition opens up in September. We are still taking registrations for schools to conduct the program in term 3. If you're interested, please let me know. My email will be on the bottom of the recording of this webinar that will be sent out tomorrow. We'd love to have a chat with you. And our next teacher webinar is in a fortnight's time on the 1st of June, and it will be featuring special guest Dr. Amantha Imber from leading innovation consultancy Inventium in Melbourne. They are our content partner, providing the design thinking module in the Club Kidpreneurs program. Dr. Imber will be joining us to speak about the science of creativity in the classroom. that's it from us today. We appreciate that everybody does need to move on with their day, so thank you very much to everybody who joined us, and we look forward to meeting you at EduTech and continuing the discussions in the world around entrepreneurship and STEM. Thanks, Tanya. Thanks, everybody else.